Dr. K gets deep, hits those topics where your flesh is weak. It's time to break the stronghold. With God's help, we won't fall. Dr. K equips and educates, empowers and isolates. Your problems are something. Let's conversate. Conversations with Dr. K. Hope you know that it's not too late. Here to bring you some clarity. Conversations with Dr. K. Conversations with Dr. K. I hope you know that it's not too late. She's here to bring you some clarity. Conversations with Dr. K.
Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Dr. K. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Karen Alexander, and a founder and senior minister of Ruha Ministries. Now, stop, wait a minute. I want to just take a minute right now just to find out if you're straddling the fence with me, if you're hot or if you're cold. Are you going to subscribe or are you not going to subscribe? I tell you what, you can't keep straddling the fence and you can't keep putting it off until tomorrow, because you know what? Tomorrow is not promised. So let's make a decision. Come on and connect with me. Come on and subscribe to my channel, Conversations with Dr. K. You can find me across all of your platforms, across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So what brings me on tonight? Tonight, I really want to talk about the subject that is near and dear to me, that has really pricked my spirit, and it is that of the angry Black woman. I wanted to bring out some insights. I wanted to really talk about some of the things that I've seen in regards to the labeling of an angry Black woman, and then really get down to the mental and psychological perspectives of being labeled as a angry Black woman. And then how do we combat it? How do we break this label? How do we stop this perpetual mental picture being portrayed in everybody's minds of us, that we are angry all the time? First and foremost, I want to say that I am having some technical difficulties here. Really definitely did. And so from time to time, I'm looking at you from this computer, which I am going to move because of these wonderful technical difficulties. This is what happens with technology when you are trying to do stuff with technology and things just don't seem to go the way that you wanted them to go, right? But you know what? God orchestrates everything. And I truly believe that God wanted me to come on live instead of doing this the way that the last few have been done. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to position you in the right place. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start talking about this subject, this subject of being an angry Black woman. So first and foremost, I want to give you the definition of what a stereotype is. So a stereotype is considered a standardized mental picture that is held in common by members of a particular group or groups. And it is an oversimplified opinion. And it is often usually a prejudiced attitude or uncritical judgment. And this is the definition that you can find in Webster's dictionary. However, for me, I don't really like that last part about it being an uncritical judgment, because I truly feel that it is a critical judgment. So it is a standardized mental picture, which means that this has gone down the generations. This picture or this portrayal or this ideology or belief of how Black women are has been promulgated through the years for centuries. And it is now stuck. It is honed into everybody's mind that when a Black woman goes, or we're angry. And I don't understand that. We are passionate people. We are emotional people. We are very vibrant and live. And that seems to be part of our culture. It seems to be a part of our heritage, but that's not the culture or the heritage of those that are portraying this ideology. And so I really wanted to get to that premise. That definition in alone of a stereotype, it is a standardized mental picture that is held in common by a group or groups that represents an oversimplified opinion, a prejudiced attitude, and an uncritical judgment, or for me, a critical judgment. So the angry black woman, what are we stereotyped as? Oh, we are characterized as everything. We are bad tempered, we are hostile, and we are overly aggressive. That's some of the words that I've heard that I am. I'm intimidating also. That's another thing I've heard. But for the evidence of this stereotype, we have to look, we look to the public, we look to the TV, we look to entertainment, we look to our news to find evidence of this statement. Many people feel that, well, it's just a label. I don't have to adhere to it. I don't have to agree with it. Well, I don't agree with it. But at the same time, I want others to not agree with it as well. And the best way that we can do that is through education of ourselves and education of those that we run into. So from just the news, just from news articles alone, there are 3 wonderful, very infamous black women who have been labeled angry black women. The first one is Serena Williams. In her U.S. Open Championship match, where she lost because of the referee and his penalties and his citings, which were wrong and invalid, she threw down her racket and broke it. She called him a thief, and she was later fined almost 17,000 pounds for that incident. But her actions were just the same actions that every other top player in that kind of environment, in that critical of a game and a match, exhibit. They exhibit anger. They exhibit frustration. They exhibit stress. But she was rebuked. She was fined for her aggressive and angry behavior, which no one else has ever been done. Secondly, and I found this to be astonishing, Michelle Obama. Believe it or not, Michelle Obama, they considered her an angry black woman. They actually named her the Queen of Mean. Hello, somebody. The Queen of Mean. Because they said at least 15 times on the campaign trail in 2012, she was angry and had outbursts of anger. It's amazing. It's astonishing. Michelle Obama? Okay. But she's an angry black woman too. And then lastly, I want to call on Shonda Rhimes. Miss Scandal. Oh yeah, How to Get Away with Murder. Who has done phenomenal things in the entertainment area, was actually written about in an article and stated how she is an angry black woman. And of course, she rebutted this conversation. And I want to read to you verbatim what exactly she said, because it is just so profound. And this is something that I think we should all basically keep in our hearts and in our minds. And she states this: in this world in which we all feel we are so full of gender equality, it's a very good reminder to see the casual racial bias and odd misogyny from a woman written in a paper that we all think of as being so liberal. I thought that was a profound statement. And then she finishes it off. She goes, if you got to talk about me, yeah, okay, talk about me. I'm black And I know I'm black. And if that's how you're going to portray me, fine. But when you finish portraying me that way, write about something else. Ha. Write about my vision. Write about my courage. Write about my talent. Write about the fact that I have been able to achieve what very few people have been able to achieve. Write about those things. See, in my small little understanding, because you know I'm illogical, right? But in my small understanding, what I see here, Mishonda has basically just laid it out in such a intelligent and such a clear way. Your racial bias, you use it to display the negative and to cover up the positive. You basically want me to be looked at in a negative light, and you want to cover all of my accomplishments, the vision, the courage, the insight that I have. You don't want people to know that I'm really smart. Yeah. That's what the label of an angry black woman tends to do. It tends to make us retreat, but we're not going to retreat anymore. We're going to bring some understanding, and we're going to break this sucker. In the name of Jesus, amen. So we're going to go all the way back. We're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to start with the history. And so we're going to start with the origin of the angry black woman stereotype. Where did this stereotype come from? Well, as all of us probably do know, the stereotype has persisted for centuries now. And it started basically, some people say it started in 1950 with the Amos and Andy, but based on a book called Ain't I a Woman? It basically says it started in Reconstruction. So to be honest, it started at the end of the Civil War. It's a time of Reconstruction when the South was being reunionized, coming back into the Union, and they were putting blacks into prominent positions. There were men that were put into, Senate positions, Congress positions across the state. And at that time, there wasn't really anything that women were given. We were still oppressed, and we were still kept in servitude at that time. So this became the ideology that was perpetuated across the time in order to keep women in servitude and to keep them in bondage, and to allow our European brethren to abuse and accost black women in any manner in which they saw fit, because we're sexually highly sexual, and that's also for black men as well. That is another stereotype that is portrayed of black men, that black men want to rape white women. So that is something that is out there as well. So we're highly sexual people, and we're emotionally chaotic, and we're morally depraved, meaning we have no morals. We have no morals. We do whatever we want to do, however we want to do it, whenever we want to do it. And all of this, like I said, was introduced into the mainstream. Some say beginning in 1950 with the Amos and Andy radio show. Now, let's be clear. The Amos and Andy radio show was a show that was hosted with two white men who wore blackface, right? So was not two black people. But they continued to perpetuate and to push this stereotype, this ideology, this racial bias from their culture about the African culture and about black women in particular. We were to be seen as sassy and domineering. And also, it continued on in a lot of the black exploitation films that came out in the 1970s, Shaft and Sugar Hill and all of that. And then, of course, Foxy Brown. We all love Foxy Brown because she was a bad woman, right? But that was the first time most people going to even the movies had seen a black woman in a role other than a maid, other than some type of a servant, a housekeeper, who really didn't have, any voice or any position. And here you have Foxy Brown, who's running around shooting people, right? And taking care of business. Well, it portrayed black women as, once again, highly sexual, emotionally chaotic. Because there were times when she was a little, woo, and then also sassy and domineering, right? We dominate. Then it also goes even further, because remember, there was a resurgence of black exploitation films. The Wayans did, and some of the other directors did. Like, I'm gonna get you, sucker. Come on, we all saw I'm gonna get you, sucker, and we all laughed and we all thought it was funny, because that's not how we all act. But once again, it sets a mindset into the other cultures that this is how we are. We look at it and laugh because we know we ain't like that. But not everybody knows that we're not like that. And they believe what they see and what they hear. And it becomes ingrained into their mental psyche of how they look at us, how they see us. So then and now, we are continually reminded as we head to our workplaces every day. Those of you that telework, I love y'all. I'm so jealous. But anyway, those of us that go to work in the morning, we have to realize that in the eyes and mind of our European brothers and sisters, that we will never be seen as worthy of consideration or respect. And I can't speak for everybody, because it's not everybody, but it is this mindset that we are not worthy of consideration or respect. Statistics show it, because if you realize, at most of the high levels of senior leadership in Fortune 500 companies, as well as in some of the federal government institutions, there are very, very, very few African American women in a leadership position. There was one African American female who was CEO of, I believe, IBM. That was years ago. And she was even held back or not allowed to have the full autonomy and power of the CEO that most men were given. So why am I talking about all of this? And why am I bringing all of this up as far as being an angry black woman? Well, mainly we face it every day. Every day that we go into work, every day for women that are in leadership, we deal with that unheard, unsaid thought that when I raise my eyebrow, when I raise my eye, when I look at you kind of crazy, that now I'm about to lash out at you. And it's always there. And it's always prevalent and always in the face. This is why we are told so often that we are to just laugh it away. Just laugh it away. Count to 10. Internalize it. That's wrong right there. Just internalize it. All of these things, laughing it off, counting to 10, internalizing it, all take a toll on our health and on our well-being and on our mental, emotional health. But, everybody's, oh, that's the plight we must bear. I don't think so. And I think we have been fed good notions, good intentions, but I truly believe that we need to take this and we need to own it and we need to destroy it. We need to cut it up at the root. And so tonight we're going to be doing not only this study of the Black angry woman, but we're also going to be looking at the main topic, the main word, angry. We're going to be looking at that anger situation. Do we as African Americans have a higher propensity for anger? Do we have, an anger management issue? And why? Some would want to lead you to believe that it's internal, that it's all us, that it's our personality, that it's part of, us being, Africans. Or is it? Is it something that has perpetuated, as we've said, down the generations, that has been mentally put into our brains that that's not a good thing, and that we should not, and that it is rude, and that it is disrespecting, and so therefore we react to those statements? Well, I want to take a look at that, and I want to really take a look at how this has affected our health. So first and foremost, Kimberly Crenshaw, who most of us know as one of the founders of critical race theory, basically has done some research in what she terms intersectionality. And what she says is that in the intersectionality of the Black woman's experience, it is very unique to that of a Black man and of a European woman. Crenshaw also asserts that the double minority status of Black women makes us more vulnerable to further marginalization. So it is because of the double minority status that we possess. We basically are more vulnerable to further marginalization. And everybody is like, what double marginal status? What double minority status do we have? Well, I know many of us have heard our parents tell us, or have been sat down and given the talk, that when you get into this workforce, you're not going to get anything, nothing's going to be given to you. You're going to have to work, and you're going to have to work twice as hard, to achieve what you want to achieve in life. So you're going to have to take the hard jobs. You're going to have to, prove that you are capable and competent to do your job. You're going to have to work long hours, longer than anybody else. This has always been said. But then there's what your mothers tell your daughters. And many mothers have sat down with their daughters and said, baby, you are going to have to work, and you're going to have to work hard. But you're going to work hard because you Black and because you're a woman. So those are the two minority statuses that we as Black women hold. No one else has two minority statuses in this culture. So we have it, and any other woman of color has it. So we are further vulnerable to marginalization. So as I said before, how do we deal with these cultures and these groups who want to silence us by labeling us as angry Black women? Well, first of all, we have to educate ourselves. We've got to get a good understanding of our past history. We've got to get an understanding of what was said and what was done, and the impacts of those traumas, not only to the psyche of our forefathers, but how that has perpetuated down. And I want to say, most people say, well, that's in the past and we need to move into the future. But remember, a lot of this comes down through what has been perpetuated in our lives, what has been standardized in our lives and in our minds These things have been standardized. And so to break it, you've got to break the standard, and you've got to break that chain of it going, keep continuing to go down to the next generation. And I want to cite an example of that because, we talk about how, well, I mean, yeah, we get called, but it's, the thing that really upsets or we take offense to is the little words or statements that are said, microaggressions, unintended discriminatory statements that are said to us in a way to marginalize and in a way to belittle and demean and make us feel low. And I'll cite a personal example here. When I did a speech at Black History Month a couple of years ago, it was well received, and many people liked the speech, and I got many praise reports from different people liking the speech. Well, the next day I'm going to my leadership meeting, and I'm sitting as the deputy that I am. So one of the State Department liaisons came and actually came to me and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know I really liked what you said, at the African American, History Month celebration. And I was like, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So now there's the compliment. Here comes the insult. Did you really write that? That was the insult. Did I really write that? Once again, just like Sandra Rhimes, you basically are trying to strip me of my intelligence, of my competence, of my ability to eloquently speak to a room. You are trying to say that couldn't have been me. Why? Because all she sees is that I'm a Black woman. So with that being said, I want to basically kind of start going over some of these things that we talk about in regards to our health. So as more Black women have been found in research to experience many negative health outcomes, including anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, at a greater rate than women of other races. And it is attributed to stress. It is attributed to frustration. It is attributed to the external stimuli and communications that go on outside of our culture, and sometimes within our culture, that cause harm. So what do we need to do? Well, first, let's take a look at anger, since that's really what everybody wants to label. It's anger. Why are we so angry? I think I've outlined that quite extensively as to why we're angry. So how do we now take and understand that some of our environment, some of our culture, some of our life situations that have impacted us in negative ways, if we have not addressed them, if we have not worked them out, they are still dormant and they are still active. So let me say that one more time. Just because, we have a lot of external environmental factors that negatively portray us and want us to feel lowly, want us to have our esteem in the toilet, want us to feel like we should just be worthy to have a job. We shouldn't be demanding pay. We shouldn't be, telling, talking back to people, because we're not the same. That is what we fight, and that is what we face, just about every day. So it's emotional hurt, frustration, stress, disappointment. It's also any kind of trauma, physical trauma, sexual trauma that has occurred in our life that we have either had to hold in and not deal with. And really, what I've come to find out is when we have childhood or adolescent traumas that affect us, and we don't deal with them, but we move on, they affect us later on in life. They affect us in our adulthood. They affect us in our middle adulthood with coping mechanisms and triggers that send us in a different direction. So we need to really open up our minds and pray. We need to seek the Lord and say, what things are within me that I need to change, Lord, that I need to tear down in order to break some of these biases and some of these yokes. Because to be honest, we can't control a person's thoughts about us, but we can control our emotions and we can control our response to them. But most of us have taken on triggers that our parents have displayed to us as being the way we should handle certain situations. So we need to really work at that. We need to work at those triggers and the causes of our anger. What causes us anger? Take a deep inventory of our lives. Were we bullied back in middle school? And did we harbor that bullying? And now we don't want to be bullied. And ain't nobody gonna tell me how to do A, B, C, D, and E. And we are portraying that hurt to the world as an adult in workplace situations. Are we anxious? Do we have anxiety about maybe a trauma that happened to us, and so we're fearful of men, or we're fearful of women, and so we lash out because we don't want to be fearful, and we're never going to let anybody make us feel fearful again. So these are areas that we need to really look at. We need to really evaluate in each and every one of our lives. What are those little boxes that have been put into the attic and have been shut up, thinking that they're gone, but in reality they're still there, and if triggered, will react and respond. So let's look into that, and let's see how we can take those things and make them and make and break them, basically, and try to bring about a different light and a different perspective, to where we can combat the enemy of racism and the enemy of sexism, that we can combat those and not allow them to take us somewhere we don't want to go. So many of those factors that I have mentioned lead us to destruction of our emotional safety. So in an affected person's life and in their future relationships, they will have their emotional safety is totally destroyed. They have poor relationships. They don't have good communication skills, and they're not able to control, their emotions in a very in a very good way. They're filled with doubt. They're filled with suspicion, anxiety, and fear, and they tend to withdraw. Most folks that are withdrawn or that are isolated, and they isolate themselves, they create distance between people because that's the only way they feel peace, is if they're not involved with individuals. But it wrecks relationships, and it wrecks their life. They and depression sets in because you're not being able to engage with anyone, and because you don't want to be hurt, you don't want to be treated a certain way, so you tend to withdraw, and you tend to build those walls. And so we have to break those things down. And as we come into the revelation of understanding of our mental well-being, and how not only to be healthy physically, but to be healthy mentally, we will be able to withstand the attacks of the enemy that are placed upon us and label us as angry Black women. So let's talk about these stages of anger, because this is one of the things that I was like, yeah, because the word says that we can be angry, but we're to sin not. And I've always asked, where is that red line? Where is that red line, so that I know if I cross that red line that I have gone into sin? Because, we get angry, but it says to sin not. So what does it mean when it says that, to sin not? And so when you look at the stages of anger, and the first stage is the trigger stage, that's when, like that wonderful state liaison made her statement. Did you really write that? Now, I could have gone so many ways with that. I could have really gone somewhere. But that trigger state, it triggered something, because I internally knew, you're trying to belittle me. You're trying to demean me here. And I'm not falling for it. Then you have the escalation stage. Now, the escalation stage is when, you are angry, you've been triggered, and now your body is starting to react. You're tensing up in your muscles, and you're feeling this energy rise in you. And basically, from escalation, it goes to crisis, which is your fight or flight response. That's when, you get like, oh, hell. And you just start taking off earrings and taking off rings and like, oh, you want to deal with me? Okay, that's when we go to crisis. And that is, to me, the red line. You don't want to get to crisis. You actually don't even want to get to escalation. You may escalate, but you need to be able to bring that escalation down so that you don't go over into crisis. Because when you hit into crisis, in my mind, that's where you're going into sin, because you are about to do something. You're going to throw down on somebody, and you just don't want to do that. There was a video that I saw of a young lady who talked about, just this whole situation, and how, when you are working through your issues and you're working through healing, and you're getting yourself together, and so when certain things aren't right for you, and when somebody does something, and then all of a sudden she said she just clicked, and she just went for the jugular. And I was just like, whoop, that was escalation. She went a little too far. So we want to try and make sure that we stay on the other side of escalation and don't go to crisis. Because truthfully, after crisis comes recovery. So basically, you've exhausted that energy, and now you're back to a normal mental state. This is why some people talk about when they do have anger episodes that they black out, because they have gone so high in crisis that they're not mentally there. They're not mentally thinking or mentally seeing. They are just acting. So we want to definitely establish that red line, and not try to get too far outside of that red line. So how do we reduce our stress, y'all? Because that's one of the things. That's a definite factor. Stress, frustration, all of those things. Life happens, and we have to deal with it. We have to deal with those things that happen in life. But we don't have to take on the frustration and the stress of those situations. So one of the things, this is one of the very, very things that I'm taking into consideration and I am putting into my own life. And these are things that we all say, but how many of us really do? First, to reduce our stress levels, let's spend less time on social media. I know all of y'all is watching me, but yeah, we need to spend less time on social media. We need to not be on our phones all the time, 24 hours a day. I see people every day, and you know what they are? This is what they're doing. I don't see anybody talking to anybody unless they're on the phone. Hello. Not having any face-to-face interactions, not communicating with people near you, but going out from their job. I work in a vault, and so the phone has to be put into a locker. So you can't take your phone to your desk. But the ones that can take their phone to their desk, they are on the phone, handling business, doing whatever they need to do. They are so not doing what they were paid to do. But we need to limit. We need to set limits. Every now and then we need to take a fast from social media. We need to just say, you know what, for the next 2 months, next 3 months, I'm down off of Facebook, and or off of Instagram, or off of any of the platforms that you may be on, and I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not gonna do it. So that you can reduce your stress level, because sometimes the things that you see, and all of us should be aware of this. Not everything that we see on social media, one, is true, because everybody has a video editor. Everyone's got a splicer. They can make something look so good. Secondly, it's only a snapshot in time. And we don't want to start comparing ourselves to someone else who, look at her. She's just, living her best life, right? That was a snapshot in time. You don't know whether she's living her best life or not. So we need to always be mindful and not make social media, not start comparing our life to the lives of those on social media. Because once again, much of it might not even be true. And then on top of that, it's just a snapshot in time. Secondly, stop binge watching TV. I'm guilty of this, and I am working to reduce my level of binging on TV. This streaming thing, y'all, I can sit up all day and sit and watch, especially if I have nothing else to do. I can sit and watch Netflix. I can sit and watch YouTube. I can sit and watch episode after episode after episode. And they say that causes stress, because once again, when it's done, now you can't watch that anymore. And you got to wait until the next season comes out. And it does cause some anxiety. It causes some stress. I remember we sat up here, my friends and myself, we sat up and we watched a Netflix series. We watched the whole thing. And then sat around talking about, But we got to wait till the next season come on. Well, when's the next season going to come on? Next season didn't come out for another year. And then by then, it's gone. And then it lost its interest. So we need to, just like we have to portion control our food, we need to portion control the amount of TV that we look at. So we need to reduce that as well. And that ties me right into eating healthier. That is the third way to reduce your stress. Eating healthier, not too many high fat processed foods, but let's eat healthier. And then also for those of us that like to have, a little drinky drink here and there, ain't hurting nobody, ain't judging nobody, but anybody that wants to have a drink, let's limit the amount of alcohol that we do intake. Okay. Some people drink a little bit more than others, but let's limit that to maybe once or twice a week. If we are having, a glass of wine with dinner, or, a beer with the football game, let's just be mindful of our intake. Because remember, alcohol is a depressive. Okay, so just remember that alcohol is a depressive. Stop smoking. If you're smoking, stop smoking. Okay, exercise. We all need to work out. Exercise to burn that stress off. It's a wonderful thing when after you work out, you are lighter, 10 times lighter, and the day has been washed away because you have, exerted energy to sweat. This one is a big one. Sleep, because that is a very big sign of stress and frustration. It is also a good sign of anxiety when we don't sleep well, when we don't sleep a full 8 hours. Some people sleep more than that. I do. I sleep 9. But you need to make sleep a priority, which means you got to turn off your phone. Remember, they're telling us now, you can't have your phone on, an hour before you go to bed. Don't be looking at your phone an hour before you go to bed. And don't be looking at the TV an hour, because all of that light and stimulation keeps your brain stimulated, and you're not able to relax and go to sleep in a timely manner. Listen to some music. Listen to some nice, soft, relaxing, calming music. Soaking music, prayer music. Oh my gosh. There's plenty of instrumental music that you could listen to that's just relaxing. Or even, the aromatherapy music, the crashing of waves and the rain falling, and, all of that to just bring you into a great peace. No caffeine. Hello? No caffeine. I gotta tell you, I decided I was gonna try and have a coffee yesterday. I said, let me try this macchiato. I was at Starbucks. I was like, ooh, let me try that. I didn't go to sleep till almost 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I could not get to sleep. No caffeine. And I don't drink caffeine on the regular. No caffeine. Don't have any caffeine. Okay. The second step, once we take all of those steps into perspective, we need to identify our triggers. Okay. The triggers are anything that affects a person's mental state. Okay. And most of the time, triggers are coming through our ears, here, through our eyes, through our nose, through our skin, and through our tongue. Do you know those that, like I said, I have seen many people who have had a trauma of being sexually abused as a child. Touch is not something that a specific touch is not something that they want nor desire, and it will trigger them. It is also, video, watching something that brings back to mind the trauma that you've undergone. Car accidents are prime example. Many of us have been in car accidents and been rear-ended and have been hurt in car accidents. And so getting back out on the road and watching cars swivel back and forth and cut you off is a trigger. and it causes you stress and it causes you frustration. We have to be mindful of those things. And then, these also remember not only those, but unfair treatment. When people treat us unfairly, that triggers anger. Just it is a known fact. It triggers air. It triggers anger. As I said before, trauma, any kind of trauma, will trigger anger. Prejudice and discrimination. We all know prejudice and discrimination triggers anger. And that's why they tend to call us angry black women. Because they know when they are doing those little subtle microaggressions of discrimination and prejudice, it's going to hit us and make us angry. We've got to remember and understand that when they do it, what it is, and then how do we react to it. Frustration and time pressure. How many of y'all, come on now, boss tells you got to have this project done and it was supposed to be done in 2 weeks, and then he come back and say, I need it like in 3 days. Seriously? And you think I'm just going to turn around and say, oh, okay. Yeah, no. We going to have a discussion. Why do we have to have it in 3 days? It's a trigger. It's stress. It brings upon anger. Disappointment and dishonesty. Oh my God. Disappointment and dishonesty will trigger anger. Many of us, as European brethren would say, we're morally depraved. So how is it that disappointment and dishonesty make us angry? I think we're very moral individuals. And the last one is a threat to our self-esteem. And that is the majority of the interactions that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Threats to our self-esteem, to our competency, to our intellect, to our very being. So we need to be very mindful, and we need to pay attention to these triggers and our emotions and how our emotions are affected by these triggers. And we need to find ways to cope with those. We need to, of course, change our negatives into positives, right? I'm not telling you to laugh it off. I'm not telling you to count to 10. I'm telling you to look at it. And I'm actually telling you that when it is something that is triggering you, you need to turn that negative into a positive. And I think by just diffusing the whole situation, you can do that. When people come to you and they, case in point, the state, did you write that? Yes, of course I wrote that. At first I was taken aback, but then I stopped and I said, I know what this is. And I said, yes, I did. I wrote it. And so she was like, oh, well, wow, that was really good. I said, oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then I just walked away because I was not going to let you take me somewhere because you wanted to. You wanted to take me there, and I was not going to allow you to take me there because you weren't going to try. You're not going to rob me of my self-esteem, nor are you going to rob me of my self-worth. That is a way, and it takes practice, y'all. It takes practice, but the better we get at it, the better we will be, and stress will go away. Blood pressure will drop. We won't have a lot of these health issues that we are dealing with right now. This last thing I'm going to talk about Well, that's not the last, probably second to last, because the last thing I'm going to talk about, but the second to last thing. Realize when a relationship is toxic. Realize when that relationship is toxic. And when it is something you need to cut and you need to remove yourself from. So, toxic is where there is a lack of mutual understanding, respect, and consideration. This person does not respect you, does not understand you, and does not care, because it's all about them. It's mainly kind of the narcissistic mentality. You need to know when that relationship is toxic, and you need to separate yourself from it. Lastly, if you feel that your anger, you can't seem to get a handle on that anger, and these stresses are beginning to get to you, seek professional help. Mental health is not a stigma. Mental health is a help to help you find the correct coping tools and the correct mechanisms in order to combat the prejudice and discrimination that we deal with every day. I truly am a proponent for mental health and mental health counseling. Of course, I'm going through school to become a counselor. But what I say is that it is definitely a benefit, and it will help you level out and balance out so that you have a very healthy and hearty relationship, a healthy and hearty life, and you can live your life to the fullest and not allow others to make you feel marginalized. So with that, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and end right there, because I just, there is so much more I could talk about on this subject. And I think I have talked a long time on this subject. I'm going to probably have to cut this a little bit. But I just want to say that, the angry Black woman is a label. It is a stereotype. And it is truly not our personality, but it is truly the experiences we have all undergone in our lives, in our culture, in our environment that have shaped us to the way we are. But there is hope, and we can change this mindset. We can break it if we each deal with the issue within, and we bring that under subjection, and we cut that sucker at the root. Then we will be delivered and set free, and we will be healed beyond measure. And then there will be nothing that anyone can ever say or can ever do that would ever trigger us to respond in an angry way. So I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. Please leave your comments in the comment section. And until we meet again, God bless. Thank you for joining me today on Conversations with Dr. K. If you liked this topic, go ahead and like and share this video. And if you want to see more of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so that when I come on live, you'll know that I'm on. Once again, thank you and have a blessed day.